Welcome back to the Human Performance Series. I'm joined with Brittany here today, and she's going to tell us all about herself.
Hello.
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you, Ben.
Would you like to tell me a bit about yourself?
I describe myself as a bit of a Del boy. I do bits and bobs. Currently, I help businesses to grow. I've got a sales director background, but I'm also launching a fitness brand to build athletes because everyone can be an athlete and they should.
I love that. And what sparked this idea?
Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm going to say the word that it's the Marmite word. People either love it or they hate it. But I've become a bit obsessed with the likes of High Rocks and Athex and Turf Games. And I've come from being somebody that had never worked out and really believed that that wasn't possible for me. And now I've got little guns. I call myself an athlete and I'm taking other friends on that journey with me and trying to expand it out even wider than that now.
I love that. I love the way you describe looking at yourself as an athlete. You don't necessarily need to be a professional athlete, but I think when it comes to that style of training, and especially stuff like High Rocks, huge community thing.
It's great. And everyone can sing, everyone can dance, right? And I think now the third thing is believing that everyone can be really quite strong and powerful. I've gone from being someone that couldn't finish a run to I want to get medals now for High Rocks. So, and I've only started doing that in my 30s. So it's quite exciting.
How soon after getting into fitness did you think, right, I'm going to start a company?
It almost organically happened. I think I became really interested in these hybrid fitness races. From that, I think I had a lot of friends get in touch and was like, are you going to do this again? I want to do it with you. And I kind of looked around and I was like, wow, there's like almost 30 of us now training regularly together, taking part in races together. The gym has had to give us a slot on the schedule. I thought, well, maybe this is time to turn this into something. And now that's where we're at.
Has there been any moments recently where you've really come head to head with a challenge? And how do you overcome situations like that?
Big question. I'm like already getting emotional, probably will. So, Mum went through breast cancer. Definitely going to get emotional, forgive me. Thankfully, she's fine now. That was obviously the hardest challenge of my life and hers. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to get making you
okay.
emotional.
No.
Making everyone emotional.
I appreciate you being so honest and open.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so Mum's diagnosis came middle of COVID, like the absolute peak. The ridiculous time where everyone was like fighting over toilet rolls, which felt very trivial at the time when dealing with that at home. And I think everyone was already having a tough time. And my life turned upside down overnight. And I became a full-time carer day and night and was also trying to balance work, being the only breadwinner. So it's kind of like, need to look after Mum, need to make sure the money's still coming in. However, I mean, mostly I'm so grateful Mum is better than ever, which is
amazing.
The only thing that matters. But I've really kind of unleashed this warrior mode in me, which I have used several times in life now. Getting through that experience, I know I'm capable of anything now. And I became very practical in that time. Just failure wasn't an option. I was like, I need to be strong. I need to keep everything moving forwards to get Mum through this. Mum failing isn't an option, so me failing isn't an option. I became very practical. And looking back, I'm so grateful in that experience now because when anything really tough has happened, I kind of just become very practical. And I'm like, right, what's the next step? We do the next step, we get through that. Then we do the next step, we get through that, and we're at the finish line. And it's a very, the only way I can describe it is this like warrior mode state, just super practical. There's one goal, all the rest of the noise just kind of quietens. And everything else has felt quite insignificant since. Like big challenges, I'm a bit like, well, I can do that.
You've dealt with some...
I've dealt with worse.
I think it's such an amazingly positive way to look at, a really difficult situation. And I think having known you for 5-10 minutes, I can really see that it's something that you carry around with you. It's that attitude, which is the reason why I assume you're starting your own fitness brand, because you feel like you can.
Yeah, anything's possible since. So thank you for recognising that. That means a lot. I share that kind of warrior mode advice a lot. I've got a friend going through kind of like very difficult breakup. It's practically a divorce. And I'm like, it's warrior mode time. Like, you can feel sorry for yourself and you can have a cry, and you give that maybe 20 minutes max. And then you turn on warrior mode and you get it done. And then the beauty in that is you can look back and, you know, you've got your war story and you've got your moment of victory, or you could give up.
Yeah.
I know which one I would choose.
This mode, this part of you would have been incredibly difficult to get to that point where you feel like this. You know, do you have any tips or advice for people who, even small things like managing stress in difficult situations?
A really tiny little habit you can build, which is a great one, is just when you think there's nothing left to give, just hold it for an extra beat. And that can be as simple as you might be in a gym class and the trainer might be like counting down a plank at the end of a class in 3, 2, 1, and you're waiting for that one and you're going to drop on the floor on one. Just hold it for an extra second. So I think 2 things happen. One, you get the knowledge of, when I feel like there's nothing left to give, there's always a bit more. And having that knowledge is really empowering, because when a tough situation hits you, you're like, yeah, I've got that. And actually, I've got a bit more if I need it. And then secondly, it becomes a bit of a trigger response. So when stuff gets hard, rather than you kind of like turning away from it, you get used to like, oh, something's hard. I'm just going to grip and stay in the moment a little bit longer. You've built this trigger in your brain to just like hang on in there when times get tough. And you've got that knowledge and experience of, like, we do this all the time. We think we can't go any further, but there's always something in there.
I love the sitting in moments. I think we spend a lot of our times looking onto the next thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to understand like how you're feeling in certain moments, and it's really being present is what it is.
Mm-hmm. And it's cliche, but it's becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. But that's what that means, I think. That doesn't mean putting up with crappy situations, but it does mean when the going gets tough, if it's worth it, just hang in there a little bit longer.
It's a superpower, for sure. What's the one thing you do to start every day? So
I start my morning with like a smoothie or a smoothie bowl, which is a big deal because I didn't used to have breakfast. I was one of those people before. And I've got the little NutriBullet, banana, frozen berries, spinach, a scoop of creatine. I could also like talk about that for an hour, but I won't. Vegan milk, and because, you know, London, that's what I do. And a generous scoop of Huel. And then I know I'm covered. And I think those good practices, they build momentum through the day. If you start it with self-care, unsurprisingly, the rest of the day usually follows in that order as well.
During difficult times and situations where you need motivation, are there any resources or tools that you lean on, you know, books or any particular people that you inspire by?
Yeah, I think so. Community is really important. I was a real gym skeptic. You didn't really get me to the gym. I didn't believe in the gym. I thought the gym was somewhere just to go beat yourself up about what you looked like. And it didn't really fit in with my vibe. And then I tried out a community gym because they opened up. And because I love a deal, they had 2 weeks for free. So I'm like, I like a deal. I don't even like the gym, but I'll give that a go. And I realized how different the gym was as an experience with a community behind it. Now I have FOMO if I don't go to the gym, because it's a place that I go to be sociable. I have fun there. So I don't need to find motivation to do it because I just simply love it. I think what's also been really helpful from that experience is I've started working out with people quite a bit younger than myself. And I've had to really level up. And then I'm checking this and I'm like, oh, my fitness age is 21. I'm 33. I'm going back in time. This is great. So I think just find something you love. I think often if you're not motivated, you're not passionate, and that might not even be about the thing that you're doing, but maybe you're not finding enough things that spark you the rest of the time. And this sounds also a bit cliche, but I think if you're burnt out, it's like, are you actually burnt out, or are you not doing enough that kind of sets your soul on fire? And if you've got enough things going on in your life that are bringing you joy and bringing you passion, that motivation piece, it can either come from something else that you're doing, or you just might be more susceptible to being motivated. But I think if the rest of your life is quite grey and dull, then it's going to be difficult to be motivated to do anything.
And as someone who embodies human performance, what does proper nutrition and fueling mean to you?
So I didn't have any protein before, which is actually quite wild. Like, I didn't have any. So I'm like a bad vegan, I call it. One, I'm bad because I break it quite often, but I was just a really lazy vegan. And I didn't realise how important protein was. And there's also, I think there's a lot of kind of misconception about what protein does. I thought protein was just to get big, and I didn't realise I kind of needed it to survive and thrive. So now that is a non-negotiable for me, and that helps me in the morning. I have my Huel, I've had my protein, and I make sure that I've had a piece of protein for every meal. And unsurprisingly, like, my gym performance has skyrocketed because I was just almost running on empty before. And I'm heavier, and I love that I'm heavier. Like, getting on the scales is I'm like 15% heavier than I used to be, but I'm the exact same shape and size. But I'm like, damn, that's just muscle. Like, I'm just bone and pure muscle these days. So, yeah, I think that's a real big, important nutrition lesson for me. It's just absolute non-negotiable now.
People are quite focused on what they look like, and obviously it's great. You know, like you mentioned earlier, the guns and everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important to feel good. Someone like yourself who is doing a lot in their life, you want to make sure that you're not finishing the days feeling, like you say, burnt out.
Yeah.
That you're doing the right things to help you recover.
Yeah, I think it's really important to not be fearful of what nutrition can do as well. So not only to give it the respect that it deserves, but I know when I talk, especially to female friends in the gym, so much apprehension against taking protein supplements, creatine, which I'm such a fan of, supplements in general. There's this big fear of, am I going to become like bulky? I'm like, no, you're not going to become Arnold Schwarzenegger in the morning. Like, he had to work really hard to get that. You're nowhere near that kind of level of performance. And it's a shame that we care about it in the first place. But most likely, if you fuel yourself properly, you're just going to do better at everything that you're doing. You're not necessarily going to look heaps different. So, I mean, I hope that's enough of a motivator. I know so many people care about the aesthetic, but when you start noticing that you can do things in the gym, like, oh, I can do a pull-up and I couldn't do a pull-up before. I can do a press-up and I couldn't do one of those before. I think that gives you so much more satisfaction than, I want to say an ab, but maybe not my guns, because I do really like the guns.
And, you know, you've done so much in your life, it seems. What is one thing that you would say to your younger self?
Oh, really embrace being so rubbish at things. It's fine. I really thought the goal was to find something you're good at and make yourself great at it. And I've learned there's so much more satisfaction in actually taking something you're really rubbish at and becoming mediocre at it. And my biggest fitness win, I do this kind of like competitive rowing style class, which I love. And they put you in teams, and it didn't matter who I was teamed with. I was dragging us to the bottom of that leaderboard. So I'd be like, I'm sorry in advance. You might be used to getting at the top, but today you're going to be at the bottom of Britney. That's just how it is. And I remember my first class where the trainer's like walking around, grabbing the scores, putting them on the board. And I'm trying to do the maths really quickly. And I'm like jumping up for joy and cheering. And he's like, Brittany, did you win? And I'm like, no, I'm one from the bottom. This is the biggest win ever. And I've ran races and done other things, but nothing was actually better than that moment of just seeing myself like as low as I could go on the leadership board, just one step up. So I wonder how different life would have been if, rather than looking for something I was good at to try and be great at it, if I actually took some of the challenges on of just things that I was just absolutely useless at. Maybe it's for the best I didn't do that. Maybe that wouldn't have worked out well in life. But I think the hardest struggles have had the biggest transformations. And then obviously the biggest transformations are the biggest rewards.
Comparison is a thief of joy. And I think comparing yourself to yourself is the only person that you should be doing it with. How do you block out the noise, as it were, and stay focused on what you want to do?
I think it's a really difficult thing to do, but every now and then you've got to just stop what you're doing, because it's really easy to get, I kind of call it like the treadmill of life. Like you're running towards a goal and your goal might have actually changed, but you've not given yourself any time to recognize that. And you might be chasing a promotion. And I think, I don't actually, if you ask me if I still want that promotion, I don't even want it anymore. So I think it's important if you can try and give yourself a moment every now and then to look back and think, like, am I even bothered about this goal? Like, is this a goal that someone else is interested in and I should be interested in it? Or is this actually for me?
So what's next with Brittany?
So I've recently launched a fitness brand. We're called 15%. And it's a good opportunity for me to pitch it. Did you know, Ben, that just by being around other high performers, your performance improves by 15%?
And that's a
stat. You can back me up. It actually works in reverse as well. People can drag you down 30%. So it's so important who you have around you. So I've been on this journey of going from someone that was like really anti-gym, didn't understand anything about nutrition, to being obsessed with these fitness races. I've built a community around me, and I really want to make sure everyone believes that they can be an athlete. So at the moment we train together, but we've got events, we've got more things lined up, and definitely for the new year, that's really what I'm focusing on. Like I said earlier, I'm capable of anything. So let's see where it goes.
I love that. I'm really excited to watch the journey of it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
It's been amazing.
It's been lovely. I appreciate it.
It was super interesting and really inspiring.